Man, I am so thankful for this weather. I wanted to talk a little bit about an experience I had last night that um, seemed to be kind of a confirmation to what I've been talking about with the uh, little foretaste that I believe the church is going to have right before the rapture that will be for the purpose of witnessing. Um, and this, as I said, number one, I had a rapture dream when I got baptized 25 years ago that um, there was this that has always kind of led me to think that there may be an interim of time between when the day star rises in our heart and the actual rapture event. And that's been coming back to me in the last few weeks, that there will be a season of refreshing for the church, the awake church, I should say. The ones that have been longing for his appearing are going to have a foretaste of his goodness that will be showered on them in the ages to come now. And the reason we want to be awake now is not so that we won't miss the rapture, because that is for the body of Christ, whether we're asleep or awake. But it is so that we can participate in this little foretaste, which in the letter to the church at Laodicea, Jesus says, to those who overcome, I will, if you open, no, everyone who opens to me. Actually, that's not a reward to the overcomer. It's everyone who opens to him. Everyone who opens to me. If you open to me, he's knocking, right? I will come in and dine with you. So, all of us who have opened our hearts to him and longed for his presence and invited him and said, Lord, please, I love you. That's different than just saying, yeah, I believe. That is and yeah, I believe saves you. It's a deeper, it's because you've tasted the goodness of God and you've been drawn like a in a courtship. He's wooed you and drawn you to himself and you've responded. There's good. He says, I'll come in and dine with you. That is a secret feast, and it's an individual experience for every believer that I believe will precede the rapture. He sets a table for us in the presence of our enemies, right? And it will be a full knowledge of our salvation right before we're glorified. And in the dream I had, it was sort of like a day. It wasn't like, oh, we found out and then 7 weeks later we got rapture. No, it's a visitation of the Lord right before he takes us up. And we know then that we're being taken up, not because of the sign, not because something happened in Venezuela or something like that, but because of an inward knowing, the real knowledge of Christ making his home in our heart. And it's a feast of love, and it's the appetizer before the real thing. Anyway, that's been my sense, and I've done a couple videos on this lately. And then a sister, I had a dream that she shared with me, and I shared that, where she had seen all these people sitting in an auditorium that was open. The roof was open, so you could just blast off. And I that these people sitting there are the church, or they're idle, meaning all the work is done. And there's these businesses across the street, and they're not in the businesses; they're sitting in the auditorium and ready, just waiting on the Lord. And then there's the businesses across the street, and she's standing there, and all these people start coming from the businesses, asking her, demanding that she share her rapture dreams with them, which means share the gospel. And she does, and you get the sense that every single one that asks goes in the rapture. And so I took that as a confirmation that, yeah, there's a harvest. There's going to be a little harvest, a mini harvest. I call it a blip harvest, meaning just a blip of time. And this is not a doctrinal thing to establish. This is a sense I have. And then Kinding My Way shared with me 7 dreams, and she may or may not want to share those with people. So if you want to, you're welcome to share it on my thing. And if you want to make a video, I'll even post it on my channel. But if you don't want to, if you feel like that's just for, I respect that. But the sense of the dreams was all the same. That she knew that the rapture was at hand. She saw the Lord. She was ready to go. And then there was still a little tiny bit of work to be done in terms of harvest. And these dreams are powerful. I'm going to read them many times because they bless my socks off. That was yesterday. And that just all started to fall into place for me because I said, I don't know why it's so important to the devil that we be afraid of the rapture. He has been working overtime to produce fear. Why? What's the strategic value? Why would you waste resources? He's not omnipotent. He has to, if he's going to do doctrines of demons and stuff like that, he has to invest resources in that and energy. And what is the purpose of that? And I've always thought, well, there must be some reward that means something significant for him. And I thought, well, it's because the raptured church that joyfully uh, meets the Lord, there's some kind of reward for them that will be a damage to the enemy. And that kind of didn't make sense because I believe everybody who gets raptured will be part of dispossessing the enemy's territory in the heavens, Uh, so that wasn't it. And then I realized yesterday it's because there's going to be a little harvest. And he does not want that to happen. That his whole point is to lead as many people into God's judgment as possible because it is a triumph in his mind. It's his last shaking my fist at God. You created these earthen vessels out of clay right in front of me and took my authority that I believed that I had the right to in this universe and gave it to these monkey men. It was the most offensive thing that God could have done. He chose the foolish things to confound the wise, and ultimately the summit of wisdom is Lucifer himself. And he is thoroughly furious. So what can he do to hurt God? Ruin the creation that he loves and bring him into the same judgment that he'll share. That's what he wants. And he knows strategically that a joyful church participating in a last minute harvest will bring multitudes out of his hand, will snatch multitudes out of his hand. And that's what he's fighting against. And the character of what I'm talking about is the exact opposite of 3 days of darkness, isn't it? I'm talking about something full of light and love and compassion and mercy and joy right before we go. That is a witness. Not hiding in our house. A city on a hill cannot be hid, and no one lights a lamp and then hides it under a bushel. No, he puts it on the stand so that all can see, right? That's Jesus' words. So for you to take the 3 days of darkness from Moses in Exodus and try to apply that to the church, you're wrong. Anyway, and if you're suffering under that, please get yourself free. There's information out there. I think Love by the Lord just did a video. Amanda Christian did a video. Please watch those. I don't feel led to do a big video about it, but please, there is information that you can get free from that fear. It's the exact opposite of the confidence and joy the Lord wants us to have, which will become a crown to those who love his appearing. Anyway, so all this is to say, last night I had an experience where uh, I busk with a cello player outside some kind of high-end restaurants where everybody sits on the patio. This was our first time this year because it was 70 degrees. Whenever we don't have a gig, sometimes we go down there, and we didn't have a wedding yesterday. And it's a good advertising, and so we kind of book things out of it, and we make decent money from tips, and people really enjoy it. Anyway, this homeless guy comes up to me. Now, this cellist, by the way, I've been wanting to witness to, but I don't know how. Because anytime the subject turns to what he considers religion, he gets up and walks away. He gets real uncomfortable. But he's such a sweet guy. His heart is not hard. It's just somehow this is all tangled up in his feelings, and I have not had an open door, and I'm very sensitive to that relationship because I need him professionally. Um, anyway, this homeless guy comes up to me while we're playing and says, "Sir, can you help me? Do you have any money?" And I'm standing right next to the jealous open case where there's tons of money in there. And I can't very well say no, I don't, without, because I typically don't like to do this in this situation because most of them aren't sincere. They want to go buy drugs or whatever. And then we become a magnet. So, and there's this open case of money, and I'm cautious about that. But I felt like, no, this is sincere. And he says, but because it's our tip money, I can't give him a bunch. So I just grabbed $2, which is nothing, and I hand it to him. And he says, "Will you pray for me?" And I'm thinking, "Yeah, I'll pray for you later. Well, he grabs my hand. And he says, "Yeah, pray with me now." And I'm thinking, "Oh, he's going to pray." No, he doesn't. He's waiting for me to pray for him. So I pray for him that his situation be resolved and that he would have joy and peace, and mention that the Lord is coming soon. And while I'm praying, there's this Porsche that pulls up with a guy in it with a cigar, and he's going, "Hey, music man," because he wants to give me some money. And I'm ignoring him, and the cellist has to go get it. Uh, well, this is all very public, and the guy's name is Gary. He says, "My name's Gary. Keep playing for me. Thank you so much." And he goes off, and then everything goes back to normal. But I thought, well, that was interesting. And some people have dreams. I had an experience which I believe is a prophetic model of what I'm talking about. Where how did he know I was a Christian? How did he, something in him told him that I had something he needed spiritually. And he wasn't going to let me go. And he made me pray for him. He didn't say, "Hey, are you a Christian? Will you pray for me?" He made me pray for him right there. So that, I believe, is what I'm talking about, where out of the blue, people will come asking and begging and drawing the gospel out of you, and you won't have time to think about whether or not you are insecure. I didn't feel insecure in that moment at all. And I'm a kind of a shy person, believe it or not. Uh, Afterwards, I thought, but everybody could see what was happening. Everybody knew I was praying for him. I got my arm around him. I'm holding his hand, and my eyes are closed, and I'm standing there, and there's, 60 or 70 people, maybe not, maybe it was more like 30 or 40 people in the um, restaurants across the street. There's a row of them with patios, and they're all looking at us, throughout the night because they're watching us play. So this would have been seen by quite a lot of people. And I'm not saying anything about myself. I wasn't thinking. What I'm saying is, I wasn't thinking about that at all. All I was thinking about him and responding to him, and it was a witness. Who knows what that affected? Maybe nothing, but that's what I'm talking about. And I believe that right before we go, there's going to be a whole lot of that going on. A whole lot of that going on, and it will. If 100,000 of us had an experience like that at the same time in a public place, it would create quite a buzz. It would impact a lot of people, wouldn't it? What about millions? How many people is the Lord going to appear in this way to? Um, See, it's the revelation of Christ, and it's the appearing of Christ that we look to. It's the world is looking for his coming. That's what he talks about. But when it comes to the church, he talks about the appearing and the revelation of Christ. The revelation is something inward. It's different. And the dreams that this lady shared with me, Kiting My Way, the 7 dreams she shared, all were related to how she actually saw Christ and was ready to go. And his gaze was upon her, and it was a very individual experience. But then she participated in a harvest before she went. Okay, I gotta go. My 5-year-old's in there screaming about who knows what. Talk to you later.